Now the next thing you're going to need to do is, if you remember from your stock list and your process sheet, you had inventory of items needed, tools needed. One of them on your print, on your stock list, was a bushing. So I'm going to show you how to install that. We're going to use this arbor press, and we're going to press it into that reamed hole. So we'll start that out. Make sure it's good and square. Bring the arbor press down. Get it started, and just push it through. And now this bushing has been inserted, and that part is done. Moving over to the workbench, we're going to go ahead and install this workpiece in the vise. Make sure it's good and solid. Okay, and I brought my calculator out with me because remember we said we have a specific depth. And you want to figure out how deep. We're going to start with the 3/8 tap. So it's 3/8 16. So it's 16 threads per inch. So 1 divided by 16 means that each thread moves 62 thousandths. So 0.0625. So we want to be, it says your thread depth needs to be somewhere between 600 and 800. So let's split the difference and call it 750 or 700, let's say. So we're going to take 0.700 divided by 0.0625, and that says it's 11.2. So that means I'm going to turn 11 times and 2/10, so about a quarter of a turn. So I'm going to take my 5/16 tap, put it in the tap holder here. So I've got a tap wrench. Tighten this up. I'm going to put just a couple drops of Tap Magic on the tap. So there's the first one. So how many threads we have? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, there's 11 and a quarter, and that should be 700 thread depth. And we'll check that later, but I know that mathematically that should be perfect. Now we're going to do the exact same thing with a 1/4 28. So I'll set this tap over here, put the tap handle in there. Put a couple of drops of Tap Magic on my tap. Set it there for a moment, and we'll look at that. Say 28 threads per inch means 1 inch divided by 28. That means that each movement, complete thread, is going to move it 0.0357. So we want to go, looking at this, it says that we want to go 1/2 inch. So we say 0.5, which is 1/2 inch, divided by 0.0357. It says we want 14 turns and a little bit. So we're going to stick with 14. So we'll stick this on here, just like we did before. We'll start, that's where the thread starts. Let's call it 1. Let's try that again. Get it started straight. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and one more is 14. Back that out. And I know mathematically that I have a 1/2 inch worth of full threads. Now, one of the other things we're going to do here is we're going to install this stud. We'll see that that was on the list too. So I'm going to take my air real quick. Here. Take my air gun and just blow those chips out. Gently, because don't need a lot of pressure. Put my air hose back. We're going to thread this in. Thread that. And when it gets all the way to the bottom, go ahead and take a wrench and tighten that up so that it's good and snug. So I'm bottoming out that thread. Because what I'm going to do now, I'm going to turn it sideways here on the edge of the vise. And we want to cut, we want to saw it so it's an 1/8 inch. And if you remember, each one of these threads is 1/16 of an inch. So I'm going to take the hacksaw and I'm going to count where there's 1, 2, I'm going to cut at this 3rd thread. And a hacksaw, it only cuts in this direction. So when you push forward, you can push down a little bit, but when you come back, there's no need to push down. And nice, smooth movements with as much of the blade as you can possibly use. You don't want to just do this little thing. I see a lot of people do this. That wastes time and energy. So hold it as straight as possible. Use the full length of your saw blade. And you notice this only takes a minute or so to get through that. And there's that. And move it this way, and then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to file that to height. Now a file, you know, this one's got a lot of dirt and chips in it. This is called a file card. We got several of them floating around the shop. It's got stiff, short wire bristles that will clean the grooves out. If there's any chips that were left in from the last person. And if you're really a conscientious classmate and worker, you'll clean these out before you put it back in the tool crib. Not everybody does. There's that. So now we got, if there's any chips in the way, you can always use a tap or a file with a handle. You don't want to just use the tang because you could, you know, they're pointy and you could shove it into your palm. I've seen people do that. It's painful. So now, you notice I'm going to hold this end with my left hand because I'm right-handed. I'm going to move with this one, and we're just going to, and I'm using my whole body to do this. I'm pushing down and I'm moving forward. If I was just trying to use my arms, I'd get really tired, I'd get wavy, but this way I can hold it. So I've got more strength in my upper body than I do in just my arms. So using them all in conjunction with each other, so getting it nice. And then I'll take my scale out because we want it to be, it says 0.13, which is roughly 1/8 of an inch. So I can look with my scale and say I'm about a 32nd tall still. So file it a few more times. Once again, try to keep it as flat as possible. Got a little bit in there. Sometimes you need to, it gets loaded up. This is a pretty soft bolt. So you might want to clean those tips out of the grooves. I'm using a mill bastard file. Take my scale, we'll check again, see where we're at. Check periodically. Still got a little bit to go. Do it a couple more times, and we should be pretty close. That looks right on the mark. So now, this part is done. We'll do the inspection sheet. Make sure your process sheet includes all the processes. And you'll turn this in with both sheets, the process sheet and the inspection sheet. And I will grade those. Meanwhile, take all of your tools, put them back where you got them. Clean up your workspace, and you're done. So one of the things I would like for everyone to do, and we have these letter stamps sets, is when you complete your part, go ahead and stamp it with your initials and the date. So the year is 2020. So I'll put my initial on the side. It's an L. There's the R. There's a 2. And there's a 0. And that way, you know, I'll be able to know whose part this is, and you'll be able to know what year it was you made this.